Welcome to Life Biz Goals podcast. I'm LaToniga Sass, your host. Today, I'm excited to have the brilliant Sonia Cunningham Leverette on the show today. Sonia, introduce yourself to the people. Tell us a little bit about
Well, hello, Miss Sass. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for this invitation. I am a publisher. I am an author. I am a wife, a mother, a retired educator. I am a church keyboardist and first lady. I am also a grandmother or a Mimi. So I'm a daughter. I still have my parents, and I have two sisters who live across town, and I get to love on all of their grandchildren as well. So for me, life is wonderful.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a blessing, truly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm excited today because uh, I had the pleasure of utilizing Sonia's services to publish my children's book. And I was like, who better than Sonia to come on the show and talk about publishing? Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. And to encourage those who are out there who may want to get into publishing, or even those who are authors and you're looking for a publishing company. She is definitely an expert in her field. So I am so excited that you are here today. You did a wonderful job with my book. You guided me along gracefully, and it has truly been wonderful working with you. When I do the next one, you'll hear from me again. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So
That's all.
getting into the part about publishing and reading and being an author, because you're also an author too. Um,
Yes.
what sparked that love as a child for reading and writing?
I enjoyed writing before I enjoyed reading. I didn't enjoy reading at first because I read slowly, because I didn't read a lot. And so those two things just perpetuate themselves basically. And it's kind of like a dangerous cycle. But if anything sparks an interest where you're able to get off that cycle, if you're able to read more, you're able to read better. You're able to read faster, and your love for books increases. But the one thing that really increases your love for books is finding the right books. And honestly, I liked reading, but I didn't like reading nearly as much as I did until I got into high school, because when I read Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, that was honestly the book that really pulled me in. So I could not stop. I wanted to read everything that she had ever written. When I finished all of her books, then I moved on over to Toni Morrison, and then there are just so many others, and I was into a whole new world. That sparked my interest in reading. And also, when I was in high school, I knew for a very long time that I wanted to be a teacher, but I did not know what kind of teacher I wanted to be. Elementary, I love the age, I love the kids, but I didn't really enjoy teaching. I wouldn't have enjoyed teaching math, science. I wouldn't have enjoyed social studies. But if I could teach English all day long, honestly, for me, it was like going to play. And I remember getting that first paycheck. I was just like, really? Like, I'm doing what I truly love and I get money on top of that. It was amazing. So again, I just enjoyed paper, pencils, crayons. I've always had that artistic side that I truly enjoy. And so writing did that for me. Reading came slower, but I always aspired, like so many other people, to one day author and publish a book. And so I actually wrote the book in my journal a very long time before I was actually approached about publishing.
Okay.
So that's the road to here, from being very young up through, elementary, middle, and then high school, and teaching English and just falling in love with literature and writing as well. So that's what sparked the interest.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. That is great. How did your background, because you just mentioned just a little while earlier that you became an English teacher?
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
how did that background as an English teacher and a literature teacher influenced your passion for storytelling?
Wow. So storytelling, I think honestly came a long time ago because I short stories were always something that I just truly enjoyed, and even reading novels, there's stories inside of stories inside of stories. But being able to teach that just helped me see how that could open up all sorts of doors and opportunities for students. But then it's interesting that you'd ask that because my first opportunity to publish, it wasn't to publish a book, a full book or a novel, anything of that nature. It was actually a short story.
Okay.
So it was my telling a story from my journal. I actually thought that it was going to be published as a book, but it was published as a short story. And so hence my love for teaching stories and then writing stories and then publishing and sharing a story with the world.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful.
Mhm.
So you went from teaching to publishing, or actually teaching to writing to publishing. So what else did you do? Did you do any other books or anything in between the teaching and kicking off your publishing business?
So I was actually an administrator far longer than I was a teacher.
Okay.
I taught English for 11 years. I also taught at the college level. I taught adjunct English and educational leadership, women's leadership, many different courses that Webster University, or I did teach for Anderson University and also Southern Wesleyan. And as an administrator, I really missed teaching. I really missed that interaction with the students. But it was in 2015 when I was actually approached to enter my short story into an anthology. And it was this anthology where I published half of my first book.
Okay.
It was the Love, Hope, and Faith anthology. And this was my segue from education into publishing. Because when I went to work and I served on the cabinet in two different districts, I felt like I had a void because I would listen to the superintendents in both of the districts. Actually, there were two superintendents that I sat under in Anderson, South Carolina, and then one in Spartanburg, but they loved golf. And they come in, they talk about their golf games, and they talk with such passion, and I just felt a void. I was like, there's nothing that excites me that much other than work and family. And, I just didn't have any real hobbies.
Mhm.
But after I started really perfecting my story to go in the anthology, and Vanessa Miller, the producer of this anthology, taught me and the other ladies in the anthology how to publish. So what she did, the short stories that we did, she taught us how to upload them and present them for sale on Amazon as an ebook. And I saw the process, and I also followed and watched the process of she and the cover designer and the other people who helped put our book together. And I said, oh, wow, I can do this.
Mhm.
And so after we published two short stories, 2 years, within 2 years, that second year, I was already publishing my first children's book.
Okay.
And that was a real experience. I felt like a fish out of water. I didn't know what I was doing. But once I learned that, I was like, oh my goodness, I did it. That felt so good. So then the next year, well, actually that later that year, I published two more books.
Okay.
And within 3 years, I had published actually five books, if you count the two anthologies.
Mhm.
And so at that time, I said to myself, this is something I can help other people do if they want to learn how to publish themselves, or if they're too busy, they don't have time, they want somebody else to do it. That is what I will enjoy doing. And that was in 2016 when I founded Hadassah's Crown Publishing. And I do want to, if we can, come back and talk about the name Hadassah's Crown Publishing, why that's very fitting and how I chose that name. But I would like to also just talk about, I truly felt like it was a call from God, because if anybody out there has queried traditional publishers, it is very difficult to get a publishing deal. Now, if you are Halle Berry, or if you're Gabrielle Union, or if you're Beyonce, or one of the Williams sisters, you already have an audience, and they know that the book is going to sell millions and millions and millions of copies.
Yeah.
But for Sonia, that's just not the case. And so Sonia's pretty much responsible for her own story. But what I learned from Vanessa Miller, who had already had publishing contracts, she had gone independent because she felt she'd make more money publishing herself. And she was, way back a long time ago already, six-figure author, publishing her own books because she was in control of all of her marketing, in control of all of her royalties. And so self-publishing, indie publishing was presented to me as the way to go. And I have truly loved it. Fast forward to now where we have between 270 and 300 books on the shelf. Over almost the last 10 years, it has truly been my passion. So if I were at that table again and they started talking about their golf game, I could talk about my books with that same zeal and excitement because it's my pastime, but it's also my job because it's pretty much what I do all day, every day. And I never have to worry about my next project because before I finish whatever I'm working on, it always comes in. I always have plenty to do, and I'm just amazed at my obedience to God to pursue this business. He has been faithful to me by always providing great books that I am able to publish. And so it's been a great almost 10 years publishing books for other people because I've learned so much. I've met wonderful people like you. I've had an opportunity to work with stories that I could never have imagined on my own.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, can you tell our listeners, because some are not familiar with anthology, is that how you
Yes,
say it?
that's correct.
Yes, some are not familiar with that term. So, can you explain to our listeners what is anthology?
An anthology is a book that has multiple authors telling stories. So each one of us, there are 10 of us in the book, but 5 are pictured on the back. So each one of us has a story to make up this book. Now, you can have poetry anthologies. I recently published a book of 10 ladies. All of them, unfortunately, became widows in the last 8 years.
Wow.
And each one of them had a completely different experience. Some of them, their husbands had been ill. Some of them, it was very quick. You talk about eye-opening things that I never, ever would have thought about.
Yeah.
So that, and now I'm working on an anthology that has 5 ladies. They did a photo shoot that is amazing, and it's a beautiful project. And it's spelled Beyoutiful, but they are just boosting other ladies' self-esteem by just talking about some of the things that they had to let go.
Okay.
And they're telling their stories as well. So I have done a number of anthologies, but I just put that out there, and we're putting a little pin right here because some of you may feel better about writing with somebody else. Perhaps you're a poet, and you can have some poems in the book. Somebody else can have some poems in the book. You don't have to feel like you have to come up with 100 pages by yourself. You can get other people. I've had people to approach me. Maybe they work together and they want to talk about how they've overcome some of the issues that confront them in the workplace. For example, my husband and I are thinking about doing one where couples talk about what they've experienced from marriage. And because the population of married individuals is shrinking, we want to give some encouragement to people who selectively decide, no, I don't ever want to get married. Marriage, I mean, if it's going to end in divorce and so many people just complain and it's not this and that, we want to tell people that it can be positive. It's all about the outlook. So anthologies have a lot of value, a lot of collective value. So that's what it is. I know I took a long time explaining that, but they're very powerful tools.
Okay. Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay. I love that. I love that. Now you were going to get into telling us what does Hadassah, the definition.
Yes. So Hadassah, and you can pronounce it Hadassah or Hadassah. She is Esther in the Bible.
Okay.
And Hadassah was her name before she became Esther. She has always been my heroine of choice from the Bible because she had it made. She was the queen's choice. I mean, she was the king's choice. She became a queen. She was in the palace. She didn't ever have to look back at her people anymore.
Mm,
But that's not what she did. Her cousin Mordecai had prepared her well. She didn't forget her people. She even risked her life. She put it out there in front of the king and said, well, she said, if I perish, I perish. I
right.
am going to see the king and I am going to plead on behalf of my people. And so, honestly, when I published, I felt I had made it to the castle. But I didn't want to just stay there and put my feet up and say, oh, look at me. I have made it. I made it. Y'all stay over there.
Right.
That's not me either. And so I have worked hard to give back to help other people get into the castle of publishing. And honestly, I have not been selfish with my skills because the ladies who helped me weren't selfish. I have taught people who maybe published one book with me and now they're doing their own book or they're publishing books for other people. And I'm even mentoring two new publishers in the upstate of South Carolina who will be publishing books for other people.
Okay.
So, yes, I don't plan to hog all the business. I can't take all the business.
Right.
So, I want to spread the joy and the love around.
Right. I love that. There's plenty out here for everyone.
Exactly.
No gatekeeping here, please.
Exactly. And that's what I loved about publishing and about authoring because I can promote your children's book and I can promote my children's book because no two books are the exact same. My story's not your story. So we don't need to compete. We need to help each other.
Mhm.
And that's what good authors do. We help each other.
Wonderful. That's right. That's right. So, transitioning from education to being a full time entrepreneur, how did that come about? What inspired you to, because you were assistant superintendent?
Yes, that's correct.
So, what inspired you to leave that field or retire out of that field and come into entrepreneurship as owning your own publishing company? What was the change? What was the transition?
Okay, well, I loved every job that I ever did in public education. Not only was I a teacher, I was a substitute, I drove a school bus, I was a um, homebound teacher. I did a lot of different jobs. I was director of personnel or HR before I became an assistant superintendent. But I've always loved children and I've always loved books. So when I was approaching my 30 years, I knew that I was going to leave education. I felt that I would, possibly still give back because I still visit schools with my books. I am on the sub list. If I want to go into a school, I can go and sub. I consult with school districts, but I combined my love for children with my love for books. And that's how I transitioned. And so my hours were very long. My days were very long. And I was like, okay, after this game tonight at 9, I'm going home to work on some books because I have some customers I have to publish for.
Right.
And at some point, you can't do both. Like my new career was just kind of pulling me, pulling me, pulling me. And finally, it completely pulled me out. Now, my district was wonderful, the district I retired from, because they let me work part time. I was able to go to work a couple of days a week, but then I was able to work on my books and go into schools doing things on my own a few other days of the week. So there was a nice segue into this. And finally, I just, gave up even the 2 days and I came on home, started, publishing. And I did go back into the schools a few times taking like long-term subbing assignments,
Mhm.
but for the most part, it's been a good fit. I felt that this is what I need to be doing. Now, there was a struggle because I was an English major in education. Business is a completely different thing. So the marketing and the selling, those honestly are not my forte because I'm not a business person. And it's taken me a while, and I'm still wrestling with how to charge just because, you know, I enjoy what I do. But at the end of the day, I do have to be compensated for the time because it takes a lot of time to adequately edit a book, to lay it out and to make it look extremely professional the way I want to do it. It takes a lot. And I'm glad that the people I've worked with are appreciative of that. And they just say, whatever you need, I appreciate what you're doing. And I don't have any, hassle or any problems with it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
definitely, transitioning into the entrepreneur field, and it can be a lot when you're working full time, working part time, and then you're trying to run a full time business. You really have to put in, it's a lot of extra hours
Yes.
that you have to
Yes.
sacrifice, and a lot of extra weekends that you
Yes.
sacrifice. I do it myself, constantly working late, and having to say no sometimes to some events, some activities that you really want to participate in, especially like on the weekends, but then you know what you need to do for the week. And at this time, you have to put your focus where it needs to be, which is I'm being intentional about my entrepreneurship, at this time. So, one of the
That's true.
things I wanted to ask you about too, which you touched on just a little bit, about your challenges that you had, as far as, because it's important that we all know our weaknesses and we know our strengths. So, with that being said, as you transition into the entrepreneurship of having your publishing company, how did you navigate those challenges? How did you get around with the marketing and those things that you were not as strong in?
So, to be honest, God has worked out that for me. I have not had to market in order to get my books in that I actually publish. Now, as far as selling my books, that's something I'm still working on. And there are people out there are companies that can actually help you. So, I actually put my books on the shelf a lot and don't really get out there trying to sell them as much as I could or should because I enjoy publishing and it's important to me to help other people get their books out. So one of my weaknesses is saying no. But I've learned, and even as an English teacher, I can tell people, your manuscript has some value. It really does. I want you to keep working on it, keep massaging it, keep tweaking it. And, teaching people how to use software like Grammarly or just spell check and that type thing, or having beta readers read behind them because everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has a great story, but everybody doesn't necessarily know how to pen their story. And so I have to help people understand that we're not here to rewrite your story. There's just not enough time in the day. We can't do that, but we can kind of coach you. So having some workshops, that's one of the things that's helped navigate one of the biggest challenges of people just, submitting things that they have a good message, but they don't have a good presentation.
Right.
So that's one of the things. And then just, say no, like if I have just way too much on my plate, it's like I'm just honest and tell people it's going to be a number of months because I have these projects ahead of you. And so that's one of the things I've had to learn to do too, because sometimes people, they're so excited. They finished, like they birthed that baby. They're ready to share that baby with the entire world. But it's like, there's some more procedures. Like we got to dress your baby up. We can't just let everybody see your baby naked. We got to stitch some clothes. We got to make the clothes. We got to do all that, dress the baby up, and then we can showcase the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So be patient with us because that takes time. So those have been probably my biggest challenges. And then I'm a workaholic. When I love something, I love it. And so I am now having to use special eye drops and wear glasses more often because my eyes are so very dry and they get very tired because looking at the computer all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So getting around that, one thing I do is I order more proof copies of the book where they're printed because that's easier on my eyes than the Blu-rays from the computer screen that I see a lot. So those have been some of the challenges, and those are some of the ways that we've been able to work around those.
That's great. Yeah, I definitely am with you on the glasses thing. Definitely with you on that. And just burning both candles at the end, you know. That's why I try to work on teaching people to plan out their days. Plan out your day, plan out your week, plan out your month. So you won't just keep spinning your wheels in a circle, you know, especially when you have
Yes.
so much on your plate. The best thing
Yes.
to do is to map it out because you'll miss so much and you're like, oh man, what was I supposed to do? I forgot to do this, I forgot to do that. But you put that plan into action, write it down, or however you want to do it, you know, put it in your phone or whatever, but map you out a plan, a weekly, daily, monthly plan, even a yearly and quarterly. You know, when we talk about our vision boards and things of that nature, you
Hmm.
got to break that puppy down so that you can,
Yes.
you know, make it more manageable.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I actually had a coach who helped me because, she'd say, "Oh my goodness, what? You're working 12 and 15 hours?" And she got on me because I told her, I said, "Yeah, I said at night my husband and I are watching a movie, but I'm still working on the computer." She said, "What? No, that's what you used to do. You're not doing that anymore." And so I learned from her, and I do the night before. I plan out my day and and I'm overzealous. Like I plan way more than I can actually get done. So I just have to, continue it on the next day. But I write down everything possible so that I don't forget things, but so that I can stay organized. I have to put it on the calendar to make sure it gets done and that there's adequate time for it. And I've learned this is what I'm going to accomplish tomorrow, and I'm going to let it go because, there's house cleaning that needs to be done. There's cooking that needs to be done. There are other things as well.
Right.
And I really enjoy working from home. Sometimes I do go and rent a room at the library or Starbucks. I can change my office as often as I want to, and I enjoy that as well.
I like that too. Sometimes you have to change your environment, your atmosphere, because sometimes it helps your creative juices flow a little better.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can focus a little better when you change from the regular routine. You know, sometimes you might need to go outside and sit on the deck or the porch or whatever, and let that beautiful sun shine in and the natural elements and just your mind can really focus a lot of times when you don't have so much going on and in
That's
the
true.
same spot all the time. You sometimes you need to
Exactly.
give your brain that break. So I totally agree with that. Totally agree
Yes.
with that. As a life empowerment strategist, I am often telling people about, if you can't finish something that day, move it on to the next. Don't worry yourself over it. Don't get frustrated because you didn't get this done. Like you said, just move it over to the next day. If you didn't get what you wanted to totally accomplish that month, move it over to the next month. But
Mhm.
as long as you're moving and as long as you're working, that's the important thing. And accomplishing small things,
Mhm.
those small wins as you go along. I think sometimes when people are trying to meet goals or they have things in mind, they see the big picture and it scares them. It puts fear because they try to accomplish too much at one time instead of taking those small steps, every day or every week.
Yes.
So that's what I encourage my clients and my people, to do.
That's great advice. Great
Mhm,
advice.
mhm. I have to do it myself, and sometimes I have to remind myself because I get off track, and then I'm trying to do everything by memory, and then I mess up, and I'm like, oh, it's because I did not write my stuff down and evaluate my time. So,
Hmm.
like you said, you're trying to do 100 things in one day. It doesn't always work out like that. So, totally, totally, totally agree with you on that. That's wonderful. Um, what sets Hadassah, or how do you say it? How do you say it?
Hadassah.
Hadassah.
Uh-huh.
What sets Hadassah Crown apart from other publishing companies? What makes you unique?
I believe we're unique because we're able to give authors options that they want. Our packages are completely customized and tailored to them. For example, your project, you wanted it printed a certain way, you wanted a certain size, and so we didn't go the route that I had gone with many other with other people before. And so I'm willing to do the research to find what it is we need to do so that you can have what it is you want. And so not to keep it's not like it was a secret. So your book came in landscape, and it's beautiful that way. And it just would not have been the same cute book in portrait. And so because Amazon sent us a teeny tiny copy, I was disappointed. You
Right.
were disappointed. We had to find another printer
Right.
because we weren't into doing little teeny tiny books. That's not what your project was. This art was way too beautiful for a teeny tiny book.
Yeah.
So we found a printer and we made it work. So that's the beauty. You get to have input as far as your cover. With a traditional publisher, sometimes they present you with a cover and you might like it or you might not. And sometimes they change your title. You might like it and you might not.
Yeah.
And you may not like anything that they do, like the edits. They may make you take out things that are very, very important to you. But here we spend time asking you, what is your vision? Who is it that you're trying to target? What are your goals? So that we can help you find the avenue that's going to get you to your end result and the way you want to go. So you get to have a lot of input into how the project unfolds, how it looks, the timeline, and all of that. So I think the customer friendly, hopefully satisfaction. It's almost like have it your way with Burger King. It's like you rule. So I think that's the beauty in it.
That's great. That's great. I love it. I think that everybody needs to find a unique quality for whatever business they decide to do. What makes you unique amongst anyone else? You need to find that niche. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit and go back to your author days. I heard when we were talking about children's books, of course, because I know you published mine, but did you publish any children's book of your own?
Yes, I did. And I think I left a couple of my books, but I mentioned my first children's book. This one came out in 2016. It became a bestseller in 2017. This is BJ's Big Dream. It's my son is the main character in this one. And after that one, this is what is that stinky winky ew smell? This is actually a true story of something that I did at Easter when I was 5. I didn't know any better.
Okay.
And then I have another one. It's entitled He Never Slumbers. And it's about a boy, but it's really my story. I just changed the character up. I used to be bullied in school because of my weight.
Mm.
And the boy learned through his Sunday school teacher that God watches, he sees everything. And this little boy prayed and he went to school and God helped him with everything. I mean, that situation was taken care of. And then this is Oh to Be a Bulldog. It is about South Carolina State University. It's a little boy, Caden, who goes to homecoming at SC State for the very first time. But these are my experiences from my parents taking my sisters and me to our first homecoming game. This is what I remembered. And so Caden grows up, goes back to South Carolina State University and takes his pet dog with him, who becomes the mascot at the university.
Oh,
So thank you. This one is my latest one. It's called Hope for My Hurts, but it basically came out after COVID just to give children some hope, because our children in this day and time, they've seen so much junk and hard times. They've seen the death toll skyrocket,
yeah.
and it's still higher than it used to be. They've lost guardians, they've lost friends, they've lost the loss is just huge. But even if it's not a loss, just the hurts, the um everything that goes on in our society, I just want them to know that there is hope,
Mhm.
that no suffering lasts forever. So for them to keep their heads up. And I also have a middle school book. It's called Marching Around the Schumer. I didn't bring that one with me tonight, but I also helped my father write his biography, Ulysses Cunningham, the story of a steward and a friend. And I'm trying to think. I think that's everything that I've actually authored, but like I said, I've helped other people. Oh, I've written in 3 anthologies at this point. So, yep. And
Wonderful.
I don't want these to be the last. I do plan to write again, but like I said, I really enjoy helping other people write their stories. So that's what I spend my time doing pretty much every day.
So, if someone is looking to be an author and they're
Mhm.
looking to write their first book, can you give them some tips on how to get started, and once what to do next once they get started? Because a lot of people get stuck with, they've written this book or they have this great idea. How do
Mhm.
I go about getting that published? Like, what do I do with this?
Mhm. Well, they can email me at hadassahscrown@gmail.com. They can call me if they go to hadassahscrownpublishing.com. The number is on the website, because I am here to help them from start to finish. Honestly, if they just want to send their manuscript over, if it is accepted, if it's ready, I can take it from beginning to end, or I can coach them if they really want to learn the process and do it themselves. But I do say, before you reach out to any publisher, just make sure you've had some beta readers read it. Make sure you've had it edited, or you've, done spell check, grammar check. You've really, make sure your story's in really, really good shape. And I would love to work with you. And then if we're not a match, because I don't publish a lot of profanity or sex scenes or anything evil or satanic or anything of that nature, if I'm not a fit, then I may know someone or be able to send you in the right direction to help you be successful.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, you did help me and coach me through mine. So I really appreciate that. She's a wonderful coach. I'm not a expert, but I was able to get connected. My brother connected us, which was great. And you walked me through the whole process and finally got that bad boy published. I was so excited.
And it was a fun project. I really enjoyed working with you. I truly did, because the book was the pictures, the images are so super cute. And then the story, it just truly fell right in line with Hadassah's Crown Publishing, what our mission is and what it is that we seek to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm definitely going to relaunch that again soon. So it will be out soon. And it is a true story also, about my goddaughter Carrington. So, and it's a very fun little story. So most
It
people
is.
who read it, even the adults, they're like, "Oh, I love this. This is so cute." So
It really is. And just the creativity around your first book signing and the way you envisioned and carried that out. The whole project was absolutely wonderful
yeah,
from
it was
start to beginning, from
it was
start to
Thank you. Thank you. It was truly a blessing. I had a lot of support. So, and that's the main thing, being able to have supportive people too. So, truly a blessing. Um,
True.
for someone who is considering, I guess, getting into the publishing business, do you also mentor on that level?
Yes, I'm actually mentoring two young ladies right now who are in the upstate of South Carolina, which is where I am. They are launching, well, one has launched her publishing company already. The other has inherited a publishing company. Her late father published books up north. He also had a recording studio. So this individual has given me information about her studio where my authors, other authors, whomever wants to go in and actually record an audio book. She has the equipment, she has everything set up, and it's a mobile. She can actually come to you. So that was her inheritance. And as a result of that, she is challenging herself to make sure she knows how to publish and record music. And she also knows how to publish books because her father left some projects that still needed to be completed. And I believe he had actually written some books as well that she wants to get published. So we're working together so I can teach her what I know because, again, people were very open with me. It's how I got where I am. And I've approached other publishers. I've reached out, how do you handle this? What do you do here? What do you do there? And people have been very open, very supportive. And so that's what I want to, offer back to other people.
That's wonderful. I love it. I love it. Um,
Thank you.
within this business of publishing or being an author, were there any moments that you felt like, because you are a person of faith, that you felt like your faith was tested during your business journey? And how did you overcome that?
I'll be honest, it's like with anything else. Sometimes you question, is this what I really need to do? Because, I mean, this is a huge, huge, serious calling. Like, it may sound just like it's just so wonderful. You get up in the morning and you get your coffee and you get your glasses and you go sit in front of the window and you have your computer and you just work, 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 work. That is fun.
Mhm.
And it's fun because if I want to put on clothes, I can. If I want to work in my pajamas all day, I can. I have a lot of great options. But the pressure comes when you're challenged or charged with producing a book that is to be 100% error free.
Mm.
Now, with children's books, it's easier because you don't have as many words, you don't have as many pages. But I've had some 300-page books. I've had even bigger books, but I've encouraged the authors to break them down. I've had two authors to send me 600-page books, and I'm like, nope, not in this lifetime. So they both were able to chop them in half. They went down to 300 words, but that's a lot because you have to read the book so many different times. And depending on how many mistakes are in it from the beginning,
Yeah.
and missing something, because I heard an editor not too long ago. Actually, I saw this posted on LinkedIn. She talked about how years ago there used to be a copy editor, a structural editor, a line editor, a content editor, and then a proofreader. Like you would have at least 5, sometimes 6 people on one book.
Wow.
But now the traditional companies, they want one person to do it all.
Mm.
And then you have a deadline on top of that. And for me, it's like, no, I can't work on one book for an entire year. Sometimes that might be what they need, but you have to do the very, very best you can. And I do have other people read. I do have outside editors that I use as well. But what stood out about what this person on LinkedIn said, now that it's just on her because she doesn't have all this help, she has a deadline. She said, people notice if you make one mistake, if you leave one mistake, they're going to mention it. Nobody ever talks about the 9 million that you cleaned up. They
Right.
didn't see that.
Mhm.
You can work your behind off and then you can still get like, it feels like you're getting punched in the face.
Mhm.
Um, and you have to realize you're human. There's no way. And so on my contract, it says I do the absolute best I can. I take it very seriously. I really do. But I'm not God.
Right.
And I can have 80 million years of experience, but I can still miss something.
Mhm.
It's never intended. And once it's pointed out, even after it's published, it can still be corrected. But those copies that were sold or, whoever saw it, it's out there. But people have to be gracious and generous to us because I read traditionally published books all the time and I see things, a man did it. Men are human. Men make mistakes.
Mhm.
So, you know, that comes with the territory, but it does make things tense, make me tense. It makes me feel like an extra amount of anxiety sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just don't want to miss things, but I know that, it's impossible to not, it's impossible to catch every single thing.
Yeah, I know when you were talking about beta readers, when I before I submitted my book to you, I
Hmm.
had my own personal beta readers. I had two school teachers and a business professional read my book uh, thoroughly. Because
That's
I think
great.
before I proofread it, because I'm pretty good about proofreading. But then
Uh-huh.
after that, then I had these other people come in and they read it, and I made additional corrections. I'm like, look, I'm gonna get some school teachers involved because they should know the grammar, certain,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
English teachers and stuff like that. And then I had a business professional who's very good with grammar and stuff too read it. So I think that by the time I submitted my copy to you, it probably was pretty clean because I had so
Yes.
many people. And
Yes.
the funny thing is that when I published my book, I had another friend who published their book. They didn't utilize, the same person. They
Hmm.
did total, I think, self publishing. And I could tell in their book they had so many errors. It just threw me off. I couldn't even focus on the book because I was looking at so many errors, and these were simple errors. I'm not a grammatical guru, but
Hmm.
when you have misspelled words and sentences not flowing with the proper punctuation and things of those natures, those things that throw me off in corporate anyway, like in the email. But to
Hmm.
have like an almost an entire book like that, I was like, surely they did not have anyone proofread this book. So I definitely encourage anyone, if you're writing a book, you're an author or you want to be an author, get that book proofread 5 times, over and over and over again, and let other people that you can trust to read that book before you submit it to be published.
Yes. Yes, I appreciate that so very much because we are not here, like I said earlier, to rewrite your story and to try to clean up everything. And then even during the editing process, I involve the author. I will suggest changes and then send it back and say, what do you think? Because there may be a reason that it was stated the way it was, and
Mhm.
maybe I misinterpreted something. I want their feedback. I never change anything without their input, without having a conversation about it. But that is so very important because I too have picked up, some books and seen just, and it takes away from it. People don't want to buy something that has not been vetted and time's been spent on making sure it's polished and that it's
Right.
professional. And that's the exact reason that self-publishing has had such a hard road to climb because so many people skip the editing process.
Mhm.
But now self-publishing is really taking over. And I noticed that even, it's not Harper and it's one of the big five. They actually have their own, um, there's a umbrella under them of self-publishing now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Definitely, these are things that I know that working with you, you make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So
I do.
definitely, if anyone decides to come jump on your ship, on your utilizing your services, that definitely is a number one thing for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm. What legacy do you hope that Hadassah, I can never say it like you. I say it like how I say it.
It's okay. It's okay
Hadassah's
to
Crown
say,
Publishing
but
will leave in a little literary world. Excuse me.
our motto is publishing excellence with integrity. So that is our goal, to make sure that whatever we do, whatever we touch is done excellently. And that when people, and I've had people say, oh my goodness, I saw that logo somewhere. And I went to a school and children said, we read those books before. And so I want that little red logo all over the world, everywhere, especially influencing children and helping them to see that, books can be exciting, books can be fun, but they need to be reading. And that's what I want to leave, that people will write their stories, share their stories, and that people will enjoy reading, regardless as to what it is. Well, as long as it's positive, but we always try to promote positive themes and just, lift people up through the words. So that's what I hope we're accomplishing now. But the printed words will go on and on and on and on. And these books will be in print forever. And so they will live a long time after I'm gone.
Yes, most definitely. Can you give any advice to parents who have children that they're trying to encourage them to read more? Social media, as far as everything from YouTube to Facebook to IG, they're taking over even with the young people. Is there a way that parents can encourage their children from young all the way up more to read and actually pick up a book, or I don't know, digital reading, or however some of it is done these
Mhm.
days?
I honestly would have times in our household, and unfortunately, sometimes it was when there were like thunderstorms and we couldn't turn on the TV and all of that. But I would say we're not just going to sit here and look, we're going to read. But there would be, there were times other than thunderstorms. I would have a book and it's like, okay, find your favorite book. It's time to read. You have to model that. You have to take time to encourage your child to read. Saying, go upstairs and get a book is probably not going to happen. When you go up there, they're probably going to be on YouTube or watching something on the TV.
Right.
So you have to model what you plan or what you want to see. But the most important thing for me is helping your child find what is most interesting to them. When they find the books that they really enjoy reading, it will be very hard to stop. I remember for my son, it was the Magic Treehouse books. And I had a conversation with him. I told him, I said, now, you like to go to GameStop. That's fine. We will do that for rewards. We can go to the library anytime you want to. And I will buy you any book that you tell me that you want. I will buy it. There's never a budget limit with books. Let's buy all we can. But with these games now, we're not going to do the same. And so I kind of put my foot in my mouth. I hated that I had to buy every brand new Magic Treehouse book when it was actually in hardcover, because I wanted to wait and like let it, few months later we can get the paperback and it'll be a whole lot cheaper. But no, every time a Magic Treehouse book came out, we had to go to the bookstore, buy the brand new copy of the hardcover. But that was what I said I would do. If he was reading, I was committed to it, and that's what we did. We had every book that ever came out, and it was okay because he learned so much, and that encouraged him to read and developed his love for reading. So I would encourage you the same way. Read with your children, ask them questions about what they're reading, take them to the bookstore, take them to the library. And if you don't have a huge budget for books, it's okay. You can actually get a cardboard box to create a library for them within your house. And the dollar store has great books. The library has surplus sales sometimes, and you can buy books for, not a lot of money. You can buy cheaper books. And Scholastic has really good deals, and they come to the schools and have book fairs. There's a way. And then sometimes if you find older children, children older than your children, they're willing to give them the books that they no longer read. So there's a way to build up that library and to encourage reading, even if there's not a huge budget for it. So I just encourage you to make reading a priority in your home.
That's great. It's so important these days. A lot of our young people struggle with reading because, like you said, they're playing video games and doing everything else all day long. So
Mhm.
definitely it's put back on the parent to create that balance.
That's true.
So I definitely love that encouragement. That is wonderful.
Thank you.
For your business, is there a particular or favorite quote or scripture or a personal mantra that has guided you through these last 10 years?
I have a number of wonderful scriptures that I go to often. I think my main go to is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Because sometimes I depend too much on Sonia, and it's like I get so frustrated, like, oh my goodness, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. But, we have to allow him to carry some of the load, like if I'm doing all I can and I'm thinking, I just don't know how I'm going to do such and such, then okay, it's time for a prayer break. I need to go get on my knees, give it to him, let him work on that while I go manage what I can do, because there's some things that I can't do that I don't have any control over. And sometimes I just need help. I just need to be able to talk with him. So one of my authors, her book is entitled Praying Women Win. And when she goes to vending events, she has a prayer pillow. I wish I had my prayer pillow up here so I could show it to you all, just so you could see just how beautiful it is. But when I take my prayer breaks during the middle of the day, that's what I go down on my knees and acknowledge him and say, Father, I need your help. I can't do it all by myself. You said you'd be with me, you comfort me, you guide me, and I'm struggling with this. I need you to take that cup from me. You deal with it, and I'm going to go back and do what you told me to do and be obedient. And it's amazing when you get up, just the difference in how you feel, like you've left it there.
Yeah,
You've left it on the altar.
that's great. That is great.
Yes. Yes.
So, where do you see your business 5 years from now?
That's a good question. I honestly would love to continue publishing for a very long time. I don't know that physically and, with my vision that I'm going to be able to continue at the pace that I've gone over the last 10 years. So it may look like maybe, one book a month. Or it could end up being 6 books a year. It may result in fewer books, but I still hope to, in some capacity, be able to work with authors and be able to publish. So it's something I want to continue to do. And hopefully in 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, I'll still be publishing.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Now, how can readers get in contact with you? Readers. How can listeners get in contact with you? Can you provide us your contact information? I know you gave it a little bit earlier, but
Uh-huh.
if you can give it to us one more time.
I most certainly will. And you said it right, because I do want readers. I want readers going to hadassahscrownpublishing.com and going on our bookshelf and supporting these authors who have authored these books. So readers are welcome. Listeners, if you are writing or wanting to publish, you can reach out to us at Hadassah's Crown. I'm going to spell Hadassah. It's Hadassahs. So it's Hadassah's Crown at gmail.com. That is our email address. And again, our website is hadassahscrownpublishing.com. We also have a business voice messaging system. If you leave a message, we will get back with you usually within 24 hours. It is 864-708-1214. Again, that's 864-708-1214. And also, you can find Hadassah's Crown Publishing on Facebook and Instagram, and you can also find us on YouTube. So if you want to register a copyright, you don't know how, go to our YouTube channel. There is a tutorial on there. There's also one to teach you how to do your book launch, how to find your ISBNs. There's a lot of stuff, and we're constantly uploading videos and so forth. And we want your feedback on that channel to help us know what you need so we can put more out there.
Wonderful. That is so great. I will definitely also post it in our description, post your contact information
Thank
so that,
you.
yeah, so that you can easily be found. And definitely before we leave, can you give a piece of advice to someone who is considering entrepreneurship, whether it's becoming an author or a publisher or in general, just an entrepreneur in general? Can you give them a piece of advice?
If I can do it, you can do it, because I am an educator, born and raised, and most of my life, I never saw myself as an entrepreneur, but my passion for children, my passion for books, my passion for people those have led me to be in business, because again, to spend all day every day doing what I enjoy, it really makes a difference. And so there are so many tutorials out there, there's so many conferences, webinars that can teach you whatever skills you don't have so that you can be a successful business person. I encourage you, follow your dream, do what it is that you want to do. You may want to be patient in leaving your day job. You can do it on the side. And then when you're at the point where either you can retire or you know that you can completely, pay your bills and fund your life through your business, then go all out there. So the good thing is you can kind of sample it. You can start small and just work your way up. Maybe you can connect with someone who's in that business who will take you by the hand and help you just see what the ins and out of that business are. I would say research and, invest in yourself.
That's great. I really appreciate all the wonderful information you shared with us. Thank you so much for coming to my podcast, Life Biz Goals, and sharing with us this evening about author and owning your own publishing company, your journey on the path of becoming who you are today. So I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. And hopefully you'll drop back in with us again in the near future and let us know some of the things that you have coming up. I know you do events from time to time. So definitely, I encourage everyone to go out there and check out the website to see what's happening. Any last words?
I would just like to say thank you again for having me. Spending time with you tonight has been wonderful. And I'm glad to know that you're doing well, that your podcast is doing well. I wish you a lot of continued success. But again, thank you for spending this time with me tonight. I appreciate getting to talk with your listeners about what we do at Hadassah's Crown Publishing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone out there. You guys have a wonderful evening. And until next time, stay encouraged, speak life, and soar.